It's okay to take up space during labor. Do it. Be loud, be messy, be unapologetically you. This is your moment. This is your moment to tune into your instincts and let them guide you. I'm Petra. I had a vaginal birth after 3 cesareans. I'm a VBAC doula and birth educator, and I feel called to tell you that you deserve the birth experience that you want. I want you to join me every week to hear empowering birth stories, heart-led conversations, practical tips, evidence-based information, and yes, we definitely dive into the woo side of things too. My hope is for you to leave each episode feeling inspired and informed. Thank you so much for including me on your journey to VBAC. Now let's get into this episode. Well, hello and happy new year. If you are listening to this in real time, it is January 1st, 2025. How crazy. What a crazy, it's just been such an amazing year, but I feel like it went by so fast. It feels crazy how fast it went by. So anyways, getting into this video. So today I actually want to talk to you about some VBAC mistakes that are very common, but they can actually really hinder the process of going through with your VBAC in so many different ways. And I'm going to talk to you about how this can hinder you. I'm going to talk to you about which mistakes they actually are and how you can actually overcome these mistakes. I'll give you some tips and things. So I actually do want you to get out a notebook if you have one handy, and because I'm going to have some tips that I'm going to give to you, but I'm also going to ask you some questions that I really want you to write down the answers for. And you don't have to share any of this with anybody. This is just for you to start working on. All right, we're going to get into it now. So I wanted to talk to you about this because the journey to VBAC is not just about getting a different outcome from your last birth. Of course, that may be your reason for wanting a VBAC, which is totally fine. You know, who doesn't want a different outcome than what they had before? But there's so much more to it. You know, when you actually get on this journey, it becomes more about healing, growth, and you very much learn a lot about yourself. And you could even learn how to trust yourself again if you feel like you were not able to because of your previous experience. And every choice that you make matters. And every step that you take brings you closer to that different birth outcome that you may be desiring for your VBAC baby. And, that's going to look different. It's going to look different for you and then your friend who wants to be back. So, try not to compare your journey to others because this is your unique journey. And I want to give you the tools to avoid the common pitfalls that not only I experienced, but also people who I have supported on their VBAC journey have experienced themselves. And I want to give you this information so that you feel prepared, confident, and ready to give birth on your terms. So, mistake number one is focusing too much on the outcome instead of the process. Now, I totally get it because I'm so guilty of this. When I first set my sights on having a VBAC, I had tunnel vision. All I could think about was, I do not want another surgery. I have to have a vaginal birth. And honestly, I tied a lot of my self-worth to achieving that outcome. I thought if I didn't succeed, it would somehow mean that I failed again. Because I used to think that I was a failure because I had 3 cesareans. I thought I failed, my body failed, I can't do this. So that was a huge emphasis for my journey in the beginning. And what I didn't realize was that focusing solely on the end result was actually robbing me of the beauty of the journey itself. The mental, physical, and emotional preparation that transforms you no matter how your baby is ultimately born. There's so much of the journey that is not directly correlated to you actually having a vaginal birth. And we're going to get into that later on a little bit in this episode. So I want you to ask yourself a very honest question. And this might be hard for you, and you may not even know the answer yet. But are you so focused on the destination that you're missing the power of the path that you're walking? Are you allowing yourself to celebrate every small step toward reclaiming your power? Are you so focused on researching that you're actually not enjoying your pregnancy? You're not being able to be present in the moment because that can happen. It's easy to happen. And so I want to give you a couple tips. So here's 3 of my tips to avoid this mistake or try to avoid this mistake. So, number one is redefine what success means to you. Success isn't just about having a vaginal birth. It's about, or, it's going to be different for you, but it could be about making informed decisions. It could be, making decisions that feel right to you, even if it goes against what your doctor might be saying to you. And it could be just feeling good about your choices and not feeling this lingering feeling inside of you that, like, this doesn't feel right. So redefine what success means to you. Number two, celebrate this process along the way. Every small step matters, whether it's finding a supportive provider, working through your fears, or preparing mentally and physically. And these may seem like huge steps, but even just thinking about trying to prepare or face your fears, that is a step. Okay. One little step that you could do is take a piece of paper, literally write down every single fear that you have. Boom. That is one step done. You don't have to do all the steps at once. Just do one little thing at a time and celebrate yourself for doing that because it takes a lot of courage to face your fears. It takes a lot of courage to find a supportive provider. So, celebrate yourself for that. You deserve it. And number three, remember your why. And if you don't know what your why is yet, write it down. Write down why you even want a VBAC beyond the physical birth. Is it to feel confident in your choices? Is it to heal from your previous experience? Or is it to be an example of strength for your kids? I want you to keep that why front and center. So literally write down your why. And if you're not sure yet, that's okay. You have time to think about it. But I really want it to be what your why is to you, not what you see these influencers posting on Instagram of what your why should be. Everybody's why is going to be different, and that's okay. It's valid. So let's move on to mistake number two. And that's choosing the wrong provider or birth environment. Now, these two things are huge. Okay. During my journey, I actually changed insurance and switched from a hospital with a VBAC ban to one that was considered to be VBAC friendly. Now, I thought that alone would make all the difference, but I was wrong. Even at the new hospital, I struggled to find a provider who truly supported me. So many VBAC friendly hospitals or doctors will say the right things at first, but will still have restrictions or policies that actually don't align with the vet evidence or your own personal values. Now, this disconnect can lead to unnecessary interventions or pressure during labor. So that's why finding the place and the provider is so important because it can literally change the trajectory of your VBAC. It can be the deciding factor between you having a VBAC and you having a repeat cesarean. Now, there can be so many other factors that are involved in that, but that is huge because, you might be at a hospital where, they are tied to these policies and regulations. And a lot of times they have to stick to those or they are, kind of coming against losing their license or not. So it's huge. So I want you to really think about that. And if you do choose a home birth, you need to interview multiple midwives just because they're not all the same. You might think, oh, home birth midwife, it's going to be great. Well, no, they're not all the same. And I really want you to ask questions. So I'm going to tell you, like, I'm going to give you some tips. So I really want you to challenge, and I know this sounds like an intense word, but just really question your provider to evaluate where they are really supportive or not. So, does your provider truly believe in your ability to VBAC? Are they just giving lip service while quietly holding on to rules that might work against you? Like, are they saying you have to give birth by 40 weeks or you're going to have a C-section? That's huge. Ask them, do I have to be monitored the whole time? And if they say yes, ask them why, get your information, get the evidence, ask your questions. And that's where tip number one comes in is ask those hard questions during your prenatal visits and ask your provider about their VBAC success rates. And if they don't know, then, maybe you can try to look into the hospital or the home birth midwife, birth center, try to look for yourself on what their rates are. and ask them what the policies on labor progression are and interventions like continuous fetal monitoring or induction. Like, ask all of the questions, write down a whole list. And it is okay if you come with a list because this is your birth, and you want a different birth. So it's your right to ask questions. You are hiring them, right? All right, tip number 2, listen to your gut. If something feels off, it probably is. Don't be afraid to switch providers or locations, even late in pregnancy. I've had clients who have been 40 weeks pregnant and changed providers and had an incredible birth because they changed providers to a supportive one. So don't be afraid to do that. It is absolutely possible. Tip number 3, hire a doula. A doula can help you navigate the system. They can advocate for you and they can ensure you feel supported throughout the whole entire process. And doulas, especially VBAC doulas, doulas who have supported VBAC clients before, it's different. VBAC clients, in my opinion, are different. You do different things with them because they come with different, and I don't want to call it baggage, but they come with different experiences. Let's say that. They come with different experiences and can be holding on to traumatic experiences from their previous cesarean. So there's just different things that you do. Um, and research actually shows that choosing a truly supportive provider can significantly increase VBAC success rates. And similarly, birthing in a space where you feel safe and respected can positively influence labor outcomes. So, obviously if you're comfortable where you're giving birth, you will feel free to labor in whatever position you feel right in, whatever noises come out of you, will feel right. So, and you're not going to be afraid of what anybody around you thinks. So, those are really important. So, that was mistake number 3. I'm sorry. That was mistake number 2. Let's move on to mistake number 3. Neglecting your mental and emotional preparation. Okay, so in the beginning of my VBAC journey, I really focused on preparing physically. I walked, I stretched, I ate nourishing foods, I weightlifted, I stayed as healthy as possible. But I actually didn't realize how much mental and emotional baggage I was carrying from my previous births. Like, I was 16 years out from my first cesarean and I had never processed it. And that's huge, I had never visited those emotions. And sometimes fear, doubt, and unresolved trauma can creep in and make labor feel harder. For me, it showed up in moments of hesitation in the beginning of my labor, wondering if my body could really do this or if I'd somehow be allowed to birth the way that I wanted to. And that was because I didn't do as deep fear clearing and trauma healing my trauma. And I want to tell you that healing your trauma is not going to happen overnight, and it might not even happen during your pregnancy. But I do want to tell you, once you start facing that trauma, it is going to start over time. It's going to be less painful to think about. And, who knows, you might even feel gratitude for that situation. And I'm telling you this because that's where I'm at now. I do not love that I had cesareans, but I am grateful for them because they put me in the position I am now where I help other women who are planning a VBAC because of the work that I have done, the work that I've done mentally, emotionally, and everything in between to get to where I'm at today. It's a lot of work. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It can be hard to face those emotions. So I do want to, pose a question to you. Have you taken the time to sit with your fears, to process your previous birth experiences or experience, and to let go of what's no longer serving you? It's not an easy question, I know. Okay, there's a lot to it, and I get that. And I want to give you some tips for moving forward. Number 1, process your previous birth. Journal it down, talk to a counselor, or join a support group to process your past birth and let go of guilt and shame. Visualize your success. Spend time daily visualizing your ideal birth, not just the outcome, but how you feel, the sounds, the environment, the smells, who's there, how you catch your baby, every detail, every single detail. Number 3, create affirmations. Affirm your strength daily. And there are multiple ways to do this. Now, there's the typical one you always hear of, which are like the affirmations that you speak, like, my body is capable, I'm worthy of the birth I deserve, and so on. Now, there are other affirmations where you can create. I will give you an example. One is saying something like, I am committed to doing, one lesson of my VBAC course every single day for 10 minutes. because you know that research, getting that education is going to help you on your journey. It's affirming that you're taking the steps towards what you want to achieve, right? Okay, so and I have a whole framework for this in my VBAC birth education course, which is going to be included in the Journey to VBAC membership, which launches actually this month, the end of this month. So you'll get to hear more about that, but later. Mistake number four, not taking space and doing what feels right for you. Now, if I'm being honest, one of the biggest challenges I faced during my VBAC was my own people-pleasing tendencies. During my pregnancy, I thought I had everything dialed in. I was prepared physically, mentally, and emotionally, or so I thought. But the moment I stepped into the hospital, I felt like this invisible pressure to play nice, to not ruffle any feathers or inconvenience anyone. I remember being talked into things that didn't align with what I had envisioned for my birth. Now, one, that might seem very small to you, but I wore the hospital gown even though I hated the idea of it. And I actually brought my own gown from home, but I let them tell me that I needed to get into it. And the other thing, I agreed to continuous monitoring, even though I knew intermittent monitoring was safe and supported, and that's what I wanted to do, so I wasn't tied to the bed. And the hardest part, I held back during labor. I didn't want to make noise because I was afraid of scaring other moms in labor in the hospital. And it's so wild to think about now because I know how much birth demands of your full presence, not your silence or compliance. And looking back, I wish I'd taken up the space I needed to birth in my power. Because the truth is, birth is messy. It's raw. It's primal. It's not meant to be contained in a box of politeness or convenience. I learned that no one, not even the most well meaning provider, was going to protect that space for me. I had to claim it for myself, and you have to claim it for yourself too. Now, I really want to ask you this question. It might be hard to answer. Have you ever found yourself doing things in life or in your previous labor or birth that didn't feel right because you didn't want to upset someone else? It's so common, especially for those of us who tend to prioritize others' comforts over our own needs. Okay? And it happens so much, and as moms, we do it just without even thinking about it. So I want to just reinforce to you that in labor, your body knows exactly what it needs. If that means being loud, changing positions, or even asking people to leave the room, do it. This is your birth, your body, and your baby. You don't owe anyone an apology for claiming that space. Don't apologize. Now, here are a few tips. Define your boundaries before labor. Write down the non-negotiables for your birth experience. For example, I want to wear my own clothes. I want freedom to move during labor, and I will advocate for intermittent monitoring unless medically necessary. Number two, practice standing firm. Role play scenarios with your partner, doula, or support person where you rehearse saying things like, that doesn't feel right to me, or I'd like to try it this way first, or we need some time to think about it. Number three, empower your birth team. Ensure your partner or doula knows your preferences and is ready to advocate for you if you feel overwhelmed. A supportive birth team can step in and redirect conversations when hospital staff is trying to push unnecessary interventions or other things that are not aligning with your values. Number four, remind yourself that birth is your space. Tell yourself, the space is mine. My body is mine. My voice matters. Studies actually show that having autonomy during labor, making decisions, and taking part in your care leads to greater satisfaction with your birth experience, regardless of the outcome. Conversely, feeling pressured or coerced can contribute to trauma, even when the birth itself is physically safe. Now, I want you to know that it's okay to take up space during labor. Do it. Be loud, be messy, be unapologetically you. This is your moment. This is your moment to tune into your instincts and let them guide you. It's not about being polite, it's about being powerful because you are powerful. Now, every mistake I made on my journey has taught me something so incredibly valuable. And it's why I'm so passionate about helping VBAC hopefuls like you. I want you to feel prepared, confident, and empowered no matter how your birth unfolds. You are capable. You are strong. And most importantly, you deserve a birth experience that honors your body, your choices, and your baby. Now, I want you to take these lessons and the things that you wrote down and reflect on them. And if you need to, rewind this podcast and get on it, okay? All right. Well, I'm going to let you go, but start building the foundation for your empowered VBAC journey. I so believe in you. And get ready to listen out for the Journey to VBAC membership, which is going to start opening this month. Okay. And if you want to get on the wait list, I will link it down below. I so believe in you. I always will and always have. You've got this. Until the next episode. I hope you loved that episode as much as I loved creating it. And if you want to learn more, be sure to download your free VBAC resource guide for even more tips and advice at birthingcometrue.com/VBAC guide. And don't forget to subscribe to the Journey to VBAC so you never miss an episode. Until next time, trust in yourself and remember, you are amazing no matter how your birth unfolds. Bye for now.